Hi, welcome back to Screencast number 2 for your Media Online at Your Library course. We're going to talk about how to find an article and what appears on an article page online. As you can imagine, it's quite different from reading an article in a newspaper or magazine. There's a lot of interactivity, a lot of opportunities to communicate with the reporter and the newspaper and the community of people that are reading it. So I want to show you some of those tools, and to do that today, we're going to look at the Spokesman Review newspaper, which is based up in Spokane and covers much of North Idaho and the state of Idaho as a whole. This is their homepage. You can see it's similar to the Statesman and Times News in some ways. It has a few different features. For example, they divide their news up into different topics in kind of a different way than the other papers do. But it takes a little getting used to, but I think you'll find it useful as well. News, local, Idaho, nation, world, education, etc., opinion, health, business, etc., etc. They also show you can filter the news here by when it was printed, when it actually came out in print versus on the web, and calendars, other things like that. You can filter it by place, so if you're in North Idaho or Northern Washington, you can filter your news that way. And you can also see their video, photos, audio slideshows, data projects, etc. That is their form of a navigation menu. They also have some top headlines here, very simply presented, and links to the latest news and latest blog posts as well. A blog is a weblog. It's a smaller, often smaller or shorter, quick version of the news to come that's still edited at a newspaper site. There's some oversight. We'll talk about blogs in a later unit. I've already identified an article that I want to talk to you guys about. I have it saved up here in one of my tabs. I have several tabs open in this browser window. This is, again, we're using Firefox. And I'm going to click to the next tab. Now, the benefit of using tabs is that I still have the home page open here. I can come back to it and click on anything I need. But I can also look at this article in its own window. Now, when you look at an article online, it has some similar features to a print article and also some different ones. Most prominent should be the headline, Teacher Talks Fail in 21 Idaho School Districts. Okay, this is a recent headline in June 20th, 2012, when I'm preparing this for you guys. And it's by Betsy Z. Russell of the Spokesman Review. Betsy Russell covers Idaho State government from Boise for the North Idaho newspaper. At the very top here, we have several tools. We can print the article, which will give us a page that looks nice in print. We can email it to friends or family, and once we're set up on Twitter and Facebook, we can very easily share it with people who follow us there. Right under here, before we get to the text of the article, are several tags. These are similar to the keywords that we used in searching in the last lesson, but it tells us that this article is about collective bargaining, the Idaho Education Association, school reform, Students Come First, and Idaho State Superintendent of Education, Tom Luna. Now if we click on any of these topics, it will take us to a page of other articles about these topics. So one benefit of being online is you can very quickly find related material to what you're reading or what your interest is. The internet's a little slow today, but as you can see, some of them are duplicate articles, but some of them are other articles about school reform that are rather interesting. I'm going to go back to the article we're looking at, though. And we are going to look at the content of the article. At the top here, we have this is called a date line. It tells us where the article was written, in Boise, Idaho. So Betsy's reporting from Boise. At least 21 Idaho school districts are unilaterally imposing contract terms on teachers this week after failing to reach agreement with local teachers' unions, an option for districts under the state's controversial Students Come First school reform law. This is a lead, and it is supposed to give us the who, what, where, when, and why of this news article. And I think it does a fairly good job of doing that. Who would be teachers and school boards, school districts. What is that they are unilaterally imposing contract terms on teachers without agreement from the teachers' unions. Where 21 Idaho school districts across the state. When, right now, it's happening this week. And who, what, where, when, why. We are not quite, well, the why is because they have the option under the state's new Students Come First for school reform law. So that gives us a synopsis of what this article is about. Now, we need to look here, how does Betsy know this, and what do people think about it? So she calls people and asks them about it. She'll start up in North Idaho, Kootenai County. Members of the Lakeland Education Association, the local teachers union there, voted almost unanimously against the offer from the district. And a school district business manager, Tom Taggart, says pretty much what they rejected, we turned around to the board and approved it. So he's her first source, and Tom provided some information for this article, including this quote. See, it's in quotation marks. It's what he said. It's not what the reporter says. It's what her source is saying. Other North Idaho school districts, okay, did the same thing, as did Idaho Falls, Nampa, and Caldwell. Now we're going to hear from a teacher. Carrie Scazzaro, a high school art teacher, says, there's that sort of hopelessness of not being part of the process and being accused of being part of the problem, which is frustrating. So we're getting different people's opinions. We're not getting an opinion from the newspaper or the reporter. She is providing us with what other people are saying about this. Okay. Now she's going to talk about it on a statewide basis. So another source would be Tom Luna, who drafted the laws that are making this possible. And we have a quote from Luna. And then, if we go a little further down, we're going to have a quote from Penny Sear, president of the Idaho Teachers Union in Boise. And as we get down, we have a little bit more information. And at the end, Idaho voters will decide in November whether to keep the new laws or repeal them through a referendum. So, this is a very current, it's a political article. It has to do with education. There's a lot going on in this article. Now, as I was going down here, you may have noticed along the side, there's other related stories. Okay, there's some advertisements, which we need to try to filter out. Their Twitter feed. Okay, so they are active on Twitter. Recent stories by the same writer that you might be interested in. Recent stories about Idaho. And below that is a place to leave comments, and anyone can leave their comments. Sometimes comment sections on newspapers get a little out of control and people are offensive, attack people, or leave nonsensical or self-promoting comments. This newspaper does a good job of keeping their commenters kind of in line, I guess you could say, or cultivating good comments that add to the conversation and not annoying ones that distract people. So all of these comments, there's 14 of them, and they all relate to the article in some way. There's some discussion back and forth from the commenters. As you can see, they're somewhat anonymous. You don't have to give your full name. Low Tech Master, Charche. These are screen names, much like the screen name you're using for this course. And as you go down, let's see if we can find some. People refer to each other's in the comments. Talk about their opinion. You can state your opinion in comments. That's what they're for. As long as it's informed and makes sense, that's why they have comments on these articles. When you get down to the bottom, you see that you have to be logged in to post comments here. So they do want to know who you are. but you're free to go ahead and log in to the website, create a screen name, and then begin commenting. So this is an article that a reporter for the Spokesman Review wrote and the newspaper published. The newspaper also has access to something called wire services, which are national or regional reporters who write for many different publications. The largest is called the Associated Press, and we're going to look at a AP article here. I'm clicking through on my tabs to another recent article on EPA global warming. So again, right away we notice the headline, Federal Court Upholds EPA's Warming Rules. That should be the largest thing on the page. Judges deem climate change science to be valid. Okay, that's a subhead. By Dina Cappiello of the AP, Associated Press, published June 27th in their National and World section. This is an article that was coming out of Washington State, probably Olympia, and it may have appeared in other places on the internet and in print as well, but the Spokesman Review subscribes to their service and provides their articles to its readers. Again, we have the same tools here. As you can see, it hasn't really been shared or tweeted. So let's read the lead again. A federal appeals court on Tuesday upheld the first regulations aimed at reducing the gases blamed for global warming, handing down perhaps the most significant decision on the issue since the 2007 Supreme Court ruling that greenhouse gases could be controlled as air pollutants. Okay, so this is a big deal nationally, not just in Idaho or in Boise or in your town, maybe even internationally. Let's see who Dina is using as a source for this article. I guess her first source, obviously, is the Court of Appeals decision, which we assume she's read. Now, there should be a link somewhere here to the decision. That would be very helpful. I don't know if they do that, but I, for one, would like to click here and read the actual decision, the primary text. But that aside, we are going to get a summary of it. Michael Gerard, director of the Center for Climate Change Law at Columbia University, said, "No one expected the complete slam dunk issued by the court Tuesday." So this is an expert at Columbia University who has done research on this topic, and he's talking about this ruling. So, that's probably a pretty good source. We have his name, his affiliation, and his opinion. Then we're going to talk about the Obama administration and Obama's presumptive opponent in the November elections, Mitt Romney, who, as we'll see down below, after talking to some EPA sources, seems to disagree with the ruling. Mitt Romney says that his view is the EPA is getting into carbon. Regulating carbon has gone beyond the original intent of the legislation, and he would not go there. So, as you can see, this also turns into a political article. Everything is political in the end. And then, towards the end, we hear from industry groups who are opposing this as a setback for business facing damaging regulations from the Environmental Protection Agency, says Jay Timmons, President and CEO of the National Association of Manufacturers. So, someone who has to deal with pollution regulations. Those are all interesting, good sources to use in an article. And if we go a little further down, we can see lots of comments. Again, they're good comments that add to the conversation, although maybe a little dramatic at times. Thank you, Polestra, for pointing out some stuff about Satan. Still, that's sort of funny and creative, and I think it would work. This is basically how to find and read articles. So I want you to go back to your Try It section and find an article and see if you can find some of the information that we just talked about, the author, date, headline, etc. We'll see you back here in a few minutes. Thanks.